you know that I'm no joke. No joke, baby, I'm no joke. Oh, na, na, na. No joke, baby, I'm no joke. Oh, na, na. No joke.
Hey, welcome to Talk That Talk. I'm Remy, aka King Rems. We got Miss Lara Valentine. We got the one and only Qoy. You like that one? Because last time you got onto me.
No, you said beautiful, but I like one and only.
Yeah. Cool. We got Miss Ariete. How you doing, darling?
I'm good.
And we got G. Today we're going to be addressing a topic that I think impacts a lot of people but isn't really covered. So we're going to be looking at how upbringing impacts relationships. Not just intimate relationships, but also friendships. I think that this was a topic I brought to the table and just kind of thinking about it from a point of view of going through childhood trauma and how that impacts your ability to form healthy relationships, how it affects your ability to trust, how it affects your ability to deal with day-to-day life. And it would just be good to kind of kick it with you guys and get your views and your vibes on it. I know, Ariete, you spoke briefly about kind of your marriage and what you kind of was experiencing in the previous episode. So it'd be good to know if you've got kind of any outlook on how your upbringing or the upbringing of your partner impacted your marriage in the way that it went.
Well, one, I was African and he was Caribbean, so the impact was there from the beginning.
Damn.
So like being like Angolan, obviously, we're very much like rooted in traditions and so forth, but that wasn't even really the clash. I think it's more about his, like, he didn't really care that much about marriage in a way. Like, I mean, he did it more because obviously, you know, he wanted a baby. Yeah. And in my tradition, being brought up, marriage comes before baby. Yeah, do you understand? So I was like, if I'm good enough to be your baby mom, I'm good enough to be your wife. So that's basically how I've been raised. So and that's basically what happened. You know, I got married and I gave him baby. Yeah. However, the problem is, and this is what I was trying to say in the previous episode, is that we don't. It's all of this, you know, we have a tick box, right? Yeah. And we don't allow ourselves to really transition and go through life experiences, because one of the reasons why we broke up and our marriage didn't basically is the fact that because I got with him when I was 16. Okay. So obviously we start outgrowing each other in different directions. And I think my expectations of him, like I wanted him almost to mirror what I wanted him to be for me, if that makes any sense. Okay. So, but indirectly though.
Thinking about it, children who come from dysfunctional families often suffer emotional and kind of physical symptoms and psychological symptoms that are similar to PTSD. And I think sometimes that also forms codependency within relationships, which is an unhealthy way to build, because you are codependent on somebody to give them things that you should be able to give yourself. Coming from a dysfunctional upbringing as well, you're desensitized to a lot of things because you emotionally put pressures on that you shouldn't. You find trust in a difficult thing to do. I don't know how many people have been in relationships or tried to form a relationship and somebody doesn't trust you, but it's also a reflection of the fact they don't trust themselves. And sometimes I don't think people consider the lateral damages that happen from growing up in a dysfunctional environment. I mean, for me, I was reading a report by Dr. Tim Cermak. He's an American psychiatrist. And he said, looking at it in terms of kind of broader, it impacts and distorts developmental foundations. You have a lack of internal boundaries, you have a general mistrust, you're detached and also disassociated from your emotions and your feelings. And when building a relationship, it's important to be able to have a two-way stream of communication. It's important to be able to convey in your spouse how you're feeling and be able to share those emotions. And I think in the Afro-Caribbean community, I'm not too sure what it's like in the Spanish community.
I was just about to touch on that.
It's
in terms
difficult.
Of, like the African background, because obviously I'm African. And growing up, you know, obviously not everybody can relate to this, but most African households, you're not able to be open with your parents from a young age. Do you know what I mean? Because of the things that they tell you to do or not do. It's like you just can't just be open. So growing up, I feel like that made me struggle in terms of relationships because I struggled to be open with people. So I feel like in terms of like your upbringing, it definitely has a part to play in 100%. Your relationships. You know what I mean?
Because you have a lack of understanding of how to build a healthy relationship.
But as I've grown older, I've been able to recognize that and try to work on it myself. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
That's empowering.
And that's the key. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, so what I was going to say is, I'm a strong believer that everything that you lacked in childhood, you crave for as an adult.
Ooh, I like that.
So for a lot of women, it's attention.
Yeah.
And they say daddy issues, but it's not just daddy issues. If you had parents that were working and unintentionally could not give you that attention,
emotional,
you wake up, you grow up and you want attention. And for a lot of men, it's and it's not just about relationships, because a lot of men, maybe they lacked that financial ability, or their parents lack that financial ability to give them what they needed, and they're out and they see a man with the latest crepes and this and that and blah, blah, blah. So what do they crave when they're older? To be money makers.
Yeah. That's a good point.
And then things start clashing because you got this woman who lacked attention. Maybe daddy gave her everything, and she lacked attention. And then you've got a man who just wants to make money because he never had that in his childhood. And then these two people come together, and what happens? If you're not self-aware of how your childhood has impacted you, you start clashing, and you could be really good people, but you can't get it together.
I kind of feel like I'm shocked about how growing up, when I started getting into relationships, genuinely I thought I was like a diamond. Like I genuinely thought I'm gonna be loving, I'm gonna be loyal. Like, you know, I just thought I knew all the right boxes to tick to make a relationship work. Don't get me wrong, I think there's things on both sides, but I'm going to talk about myself. I am shocked about how much I didn't know and how much I don't know. And I'm actually thinking, bro, like for instance, I didn't realize I was quite guarded. Like, I didn't realize I was quite guarded, and I've been dragged recently, but in conversations with like people that don't even know me that well, but can sense that guarded thing. And I don't think I'm being guarded. I think I'm bantering. But now I'm putting up walls almost immediately. I don't know about this person, and I didn't realize that. And I think for me it's because my mum, she's like one of those like community people. Like you're African as well. It's the same thing I was saying.
She
would like take care of tons of people. I think familiarity breeds contempt. Like you see people take the piss and take, and then I'm like, wait, hold on. So a nice person, and this isn't just my mum. Like a lot of people that I saw doing good things, a good person can take an L.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna be good, but I'm gonna guard myself. And it's not even conscious. It's kind of like
protecting yourself.
Because I don't feel like I'm gonna do something to F you over, but maybe you might. So I'm just gonna, do you know what I mean?
And
appreciate the honesty. Sorry, go ahead, girl.
No, and I'm saying sometimes that, unfortunately,
I'm trying to change the feature, babe. I'm trying to change.
But you know what it is? Sometimes when you know what you're basically saying, and that's the danger of sometimes we end up in very toxic relationships, and that toxic relationship becomes a norm until when you're in a relationship, until you come out, you're like, raw, put up with that, and it becomes norm because you can't smell the shit around you, basically, because you're in it. And one thing I was talking to one of my girls, and all of us did it. We're in relationships, and we always like, oh my God, I'm a good woman. I do this. I'm loyal. Blah blah blah. Why doesn't he see the value in me? Blah blah blah. I don't cheat. But the problem, but the thing is, that's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I was going to say. Can I just finish? The reason it's not even just that. And one of the questions my friend asked me is why do men, right? Why they see a good woman? They see why they don't see the value in me. And one of the things I basically said to her is like, it's not the fact, they know that a man knows why he wifed you. Yeah. He knows that you're a good woman. He knows the value in you, otherwise he wouldn't value. The problem is that he knows that you don't see that value in yourself. So when he doesn't, if he sees that you don't value yourself, then that's where certain men start taking the piss. Because a lot of us do this. A lot of us go like, oh my God, no, my wife, but do you really value yourself? Because if you value yourself, you wouldn't be in that relationship, period. You wouldn't. They don't believe it.
Additionally as well, the man may not feel that they are worthy of receiving such love. And that is what people fail to forget.
That's what it is.
Some men do feel like you're too good for them.
If you grew up without, that is all you understand. If you grow up on survival, if you're raised on survival and you're not raised on love that grows you and develops you, you have a gaping hole in your self-esteem. So if you've got a wonderful woman that is preparing to love you, fuck with you when you're down, hold you up, they don't understand, men and women, because I was in a very similar situation. Men and women, if you love them in a way that they cannot comprehend, it's like, oh shit, I don't know how to deal with this. It's self-sabotage.
Have you guys
let me
been in
fuck
love?
it up before she realizes I'm not good enough.
No, wait, I spoke over you. Continue.
What's the question?
Have you guys been in love?
Let me bust this. I loved somebody with my entire fiber of my being. I loved this woman to the point I could look at her sleep and be like, she is the most amazing person I've ever seen.
And everything.
But you know what? She didn't love herself. So no matter how much I gave her, it was never good enough. So when she left, It took a part of me as well. Part of me that recently it took me time to recover and discover. But not everybody has the capacity to do that. And don't feel sorry for me, because there's people that are in love with their mums and they want to be loved by family and they're neglected. So then they replicate those behaviours. Not everybody has the power or the fucking courage to be like, do you know what? I'm going
it takes
to
bravery, mate.
It's also a healing process. It's actually a healing process. It takes you to acknowledge. It takes you to acknowledge it and then try and work on it. Like, I'm going to tap into abuse, because some people grew up in households where there was abuse, or maybe the dad was hitting their mum, and then they end up growing up. They probably said to themselves they'll never be in a relationship like that, but then they end up being attracted to an abusive guy, and then the guy ends up being abusive. It's like, I'm just going to example. Let's just say this is not the other way around, vice versa. But Chris Brown, let's say, he said he grew up with.
Chris Brown
I'm just gonna say he said that he grew up with I don't know if it was his real dad or it was his stepdad that was beating his mum, and then he ended up with that situation. But like, it's not an excuse.
But let me put can I add to that?
Yes, go on.
And I'm going to put it all the way out there. I grew up in a domestically violent environment. So when my ex put hands on me, I normalised it and made excuses for her. So I completely understand. I didn't understand, because I didn't get that love and there were so many things missing in my childhood. I feared people, so I became a people pleaser in order for them to love me. It's all good. It's all good. Listen, it is what it is. It is what it is.
And you know what? It's interesting, that point that you made earlier, because I used to really struggle with my relationship, because sometimes my ex used to say to me that he felt that that I didn't show like value, because basically we was teenagers. I became quite career focused minded. So it's almost like in terms of life, I was kind of ahead of him. And sometimes women would become more ahead career wise than men, blah, blah, blah. So in a way, sometimes he felt like almost like he was not below me, but he felt like I acted almost like, not above him, like I'm better. But I'm not that type of nature. You understand? But it's almost like men feel like inferior. What is it, like inferior to women that become?
But you're allowed to outgrow people, and I feel like a lot of people, like in my household, like you said, you're not sure about Spanish cultures. It's like if you're married, you make it work regardless. My parents got married because my mum was pregnant with my sister. And she ain't getting rid of it. So my dad was like, well, I ain't having my baby mother. I ain't having no baby mother. We're getting married. They've been together for years, 35 years plus. And it's beautiful. But the thing is, at the same time, like it can be toxic. Because you're not together for the right reasons. So you're raising kids in this toxic environment.
Oh Lord, that's not.
Do you know what I mean?
Now, because
so it's the kind of situation that for me, I'm not sure where I stand on marriage, especially in today's society. But for me, like I would never stay with someone or just have like a split decision because of that's how I was raised. But like it's just.
We need to
like I said, it's a lot of self-awareness.
I think we used to, obviously growing up, marriage is the norm. It's like uni, it's something you do, That's what it is. Like, in my upbringing, it's like, we get there. But then I kind of fell off it. My ex actually made he made marriage seem like a more of a thing, right? For me, it was probably my relationship with, I honestly think marriage worked. I believe in marriage now because I believe it's something for me that like, because my faith is Christian, whatever, So if it works, for me, that's how I'll do it in that realm. Like, I'll be like, okay, cool. So there's going to be extra support for this thing right now. That's how I see it. I do feel like there's a lot of pressure. The reason why at one point I fell off it, because I was thinking, wait, one person forever, like for the rest of your life. No, I'm not talking about sex. I'm not talking about that or anything. I'm talking about dealing with that
for the rest of their life, not just yours.
Person forever, regardless. Now I'm on it, but
I don't know what your experience is, but my experience was right. My ex felt like the marriage would make everything better. She wouldn't have to work on herself, or if something made her unhappy, because we're married, it would all go away. It becomes a cloak.
So
and I'm like,
it's the same.
Man, if you don't work on yourself, just because you're married,
that's what basically that's what I was basically saying. We both knew that we was not compatible, but we still got married because we've been together for a long time, because we loved each other. So we had a great connection, great chemistry, but we weren't compatible with each other. And that was the era that but it's growth. And I feel like, do you guys remember what Will Smith said about finding your self-happiness. And I don't know if you guys saw it. And he was just basically saying that we are all, because we now in marriage, both people have to take accountability for their behavior. So I would never put it on, even though he might have, strayed, I still have to reflect as a woman and take accountability for the things that I allowed to happen. 100%. And for the fact that I didn't value myself enough to even leave as well.
That's so painful.
So we all have to take accountability. And that's something I had to learn, because remember what I was doing as well. I was almost, not that I wanted the best for him, but in a way I was trying to mold him into the reflection of who I was. He should, and really you can't change anyone unless they have to change for themselves. And that's something that he had to learn as well.
I think Will Smith, adding to that, made a really good point. With children and young people that go through adverse childhood experiences, there is a scale for that, and there are frontline professionals who are doing training, trauma-informed practice training to work with children and young people to give them the best support. But with children who have gone through adverse childhood experiences, they're forming relationships to fill gaps in themselves.
Yes. Oh,
and it's like, my guys,
let's talk about this. This is so important.
Can't do that. And I firmly believe that adverse childhood experiences affect men and women differently. Like, I think that men almost become, they have an authority complex, whereas women have an inferiority complex. They don't feel like they're good enough, whereas men kind of have this overinflated version of themselves. But finding that you can't spend a lot of time alone in your head, what do? You occupy yourself with a relationship so you can spend time in somebody else's
And you jump from relationship to relationship, and you're thinking, why can't I find a good man? And it's because you're constantly feeling
and
that.
This is the thing as
you don't want to be lonely.
That was my second relationship. No word of a lie. I genuinely feel like it was a distraction.
My second relationship,
and that's disrespectful to the person, but I probably was a distraction to them. But I remember genuinely thinking every time life would get a little bit stressful, I'm gonna go and see X and X. Do you know what I mean?
It's that,
no, not to smack, not that.
You know when you're talking about codependency, codependency and emotional dependency is massive, because what happened when I'm going back to the Will Smith bit. It's about finding your self-happiness. If you're happy within yourself, it's like we're dependent upon that person giving us happiness.
It doesn't
we
work
need
like
to
that.
stop doing that. It's hard, but it's about you need to build yourself. Find out how to build yourself as a person.
The way you got
everyone else is an extension. Everyone else is an extension of your happiness. An addition to your happiness. Because if they leave, if they leave your life, guess what? You're still with your happiness.
I found out the hard way. Oh my God, I found out the hard way. Sorry to cut you, but my thing is this, would you tell somebody you don't know that you love them? You wouldn't. So if you don't know, you wouldn't. But to intimately love them, you couldn't. So how can you love yourself? Hold on. How can you love yourself if you do not know yourself? You wouldn't tell somebody on the road that you don't know that you love them intimately. So if you don't know yourself intimately, how can you love you? And if you don't know how to love you, how can you teach somebody else?
People, you have to be able to be spend time with yourself. Do you like your own companionship? Do you like your own companionship? Do you like your own companionship?
Jamaica by myself.
This is why it becomes a pattern, because two people that don't know themselves get into a relationship, and then they have a child, and then it now affects the child, and then that's how it affects their upbringing.
And the thing is, what you were saying about finding your own happiness, think about it, when you're a child, you're this sponge. You just take everything in. And the first 3.5 to 4 years of your childhood set the foundations for your relationships, your education, how you socialize with people, how you interact. And if you're not fulfilled as a child from that age, or you're dependent on, things, and it just depends on how you was kept happy as a child. And if you wasn't kept happy at all, you're constantly going to look for happiness outside, or we haven't spoken about the other way. Some people react differently. So if you have an alcoholic father,
you don't drink.
Some people don't drink. Some people do. You can have two sisters. One is constantly stuck in the past because my parents done this, because this and that, and and then you can have another sister that says, hold on, yes, that was messed up, but how, for example, my mum is amazing, right?
Hold tight, Gigi's mum?
Yes. Had she been raised better, she would have, my mum lacks self-awareness, which I think a lot of the older generation
Agreed.
They're just used to being in autopilot of how they were raised. But compared to how my mum was raised, how she raised me and my sister, because she could have totally taken a different route. She could have done exactly the same, and me and my sister.
But we all could. If you look at how we're all
so some people can take that bad upbringing and do the complete opposite because they don't want to carry on the cycle. They want to break it.
I can't say that. I would say maybe my mum wanted to be different, but my dad was just like, my dad's Muslim, my mom's Christian, and my dad is like hardcore. Like, he tried to be the hardcore, he tried to be strict. And even both of them, they're not affectionate. They were never affectionate to each other, they were never affectionate to us. So I personally, like growing up, I realized I've done a lot of self-awareness. I struggle to be affectionate with people, open and stuff like that. So I feel like them two not doing the self-awareness and knowing themselves, they struggle to like play onto us growing up. Do you know what I mean? So it's definitely...
It's a massive thing, and I think this is why our generation are, in essence, in and out of relationships. Like, I call it the Love Island thing. I don't know how you can move from relationship to relationship so quick. Do you know how long
you're trying to build? But have we done that? Like, if you look at this room, so have you actually done that though? Because if you look at this room, like you were in a long one and now you're just like doing your thing, innit? Like, I don't think we're jumping from. I actually think I personally think I stay away from relationships if I date.
Yeah,
like,
same.
I think a lot of people. I'm not smart because you have to learn how to take an L in order to. You say this courage. You got to be
like, what's her name? Megan Hansen Branson. The guy.
Because then when she does get into a relationship, she won't know how to act.
Yeah, I do though. Listen, babe, she's fine. You know what I mean? I know how to act.
Because you've stayed away from relationship for so long, when you do get into a relationship...
It's not that long, babe. I didn't say... Don't listen to this. I don't even know this girl. I met today. I know how to be in relationships. I'm just saying. I hear you there.
I get what you're saying. Because sometimes we get too comfortable being by ourselves as well. That's a bit, it's good to be by yourself. No. Because sometimes it's good to love your companionship, but sometimes you might love your space a little bit too much.
Can I ask a question? When we get to a certain age, can we still blame our upbringing for the way we...
hell no.
No, we have to take responsibility.
When you
wait. But you need to realise, especially for men do not feel like they can talk about what has happened in their upbringing, in their past so openly, no matter what it is. So I feel like for women, we have more of that platform and we're allowed to be more emotional. But if you've got a man who has suffered with something, and remember, PTSD isn't just seeing violence and stuff like that. It could be anything. It could be
emotionally neglect.
Exactly. And he's never known how to process that. And men don't talk. A lot of men, let me not say all men, a lot of men don't talk about their emotions. They don't get together in a group of friends and be like, right, this happened to me when I was younger, and I'm struggling with it.
Yeah.
So
I'm working on it.
Yes, it's not age dependent, but it's dependent upon when you realise the output you're getting in life.
And this is where it ties into relationship, because that man will come across a woman that's like, babe, what's going on with you? Tell me what's... Like, I can tell something's wrong, so and a man will not be able to say, babes, this is what's wrong with me, this and that, blah, 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 and then she can become your support system.
A lot of women
and
can't,
vice versa. And a lot of women can't, and it goes both ways, so it's a constant cycle, and then you bring kids into it, and then unless they're that child that says, I don't want to raise I don't want to raise my children like this. Then it's another cycle again.
Do you know what? That's why I believe not everybody should have kids. I might get shot for that, but suck your mum. That's why I believe not everybody should have kids.
What's
because
happening?
I've said this in another podcast. If you haven't got it to give yourself, you are then placing your child at the mercy of the environment they're in, and people that genuinely don't check for them.
I was talking about when you said someone should shoot you. That's what
and this is what it is, because remember, with our upbringing as well, like Africa, I'm going back to, and I want to say not every African, I'm talking about my personal angle. It's like marriage is very sacred as well. So you don't just, one problem, like I remember one time, I had an argument with my ex, right? And I went to my mum's house, I'm like, I'm going to my mum's house. I went to my mum, I was like, oh, what happened? So I told her, so it was a stupid fight. She goes, so you come to my house for that? Go back home. And but I do, she understand, obviously it was if it was like big like DV, it's completely different. But it was more about like, you deal, whatever problems you have with your husband, you deal with it. You don't come to my house and
divorce ain't an option.
She's always like, oh, Lara, like any little thing, you're done, you're over it.
Let me add to that.
She's like, if you're married, you're gonna have to like stick it. And I'm looking at her like, no,
that's really growing up. Growing up, I heard like like I heard this, it got reinforced to me by bare people, right? Like, oh, you only get one time to do something. If you mess up, like, this idea of getting it right. So I realized, can I just land really, really quickly? If you have that idea of fear of getting it, like that want to get it right can equal a fear of getting it wrong, and then it means you don't try because you don't want to do you know what I mean? You don't want to, and the maddest thing is that nobody has ever got it right the first time. No shade, even you, Auntie, didn't get it right. So you got to tell me. In fact, what you should be doing is telling me where you went wrong and just pray.
So we can learn.
To wrap it up, Henry VIII fought for divorce. I appreciate you, my guy. So in terms of your view,
his wives.
Short, sharp answer. Listen, I should have done the same thing. Short, sharp answer. Does upbringing impact relationships? Gigi?
100,000,000,000%.
Ariete?
It does, but start taking responsibility when you know, for your actions when you get older.
Qoy?
Ditto.
What Ariete said. Lara Valentine?
Of course, I think it's just important to work on yourself and don't realise until it's too late.
100%. Take responsibility.
Can I just apologise to that relationship that I badded up about being a distraction?
Qoy said she's sorry. Let me talk to you. Qoy said she's sorry. She with me now, but it's alright. I'm joking. No. It's all good. No, but on a real, upbringing does impact, but there are tools in place. There are people that can help you. There are lines you can talk to, Samaritans. There are places that you can go, so don't ever feel that you're alone and don't ever feel that it's too late to make a change. We have been talking that talk. We've been talking upbringing and impact on relationships. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you like, share, and comment. Peace.
No joke.